Brothers and sisters, I have great pleasure to be in your midst this evening and to bring you greetings from Nigeria and indeed from Africa. Let me express my appreciation on that of members of my delegation for the kind invitation to join you and be part of this conference on the theme of God's plan for peace, health, and happiness. Let me first of all apologize for not being with you when this conference began yesterday. I had wanted to be with you, but for reasons beyond my control, because I have to take part in an emergency meeting of national importance in Nigeria. But I'm happy to be able to join you in the middle of this conference. Everywhere in the world today, there is cry for peace. There is cry for happiness. And yet, God has created a world to be a world of peace, a world of happiness, a world of joy for every citizen of the world. Why is it that the world that God has created to be perfect has become imperfect? Because the world is devoid of peace, is devoid of happiness. It is because of what human beings that God has created to inhabit the world, what we have done, and what we continue to do to ourselves to make the world unsecure, unsafe, unhappy for ourselves individually and for ourselves collectively. God created a world of plenty, but what do we see? We see scarcity, we see inadequacy everywhere. God has created enough for the needs of every citizen in this world. But God has not created enough for the greed of all the citizens of this world. And what has invariably made the world unsafe, insecure, unhappy, and devoid of peace is the greed of most of us in this world. So, how can we contribute to peace in the world, happiness in the world? We can only do that by doing what God wants us to do individually and collectively. Peace must begin with us. Happiness must begin with us. If we have no peace in us, we have no happiness in us, we cannot radiate peace, we cannot radiate happiness to other people. We must dispense justice, we must dispense kindness, we must dispense compassion, we must dispense fairness, we must share, we must care, we must be our brothers and sisters' keeper. That is when we can have peace. in ourselves. That is when we can radiate peace to other people. That is when we can have happiness in ourselves. And that is when we can give happiness to others. I thank you for the opportunity you have given to me. Let me say this. In my own continent of Africa, WHO came up the other day and said, in terms of humanitarian crisis, we have 44 of such crises in Africa at this moment. In terms of epidemics and diseases, we have 11 of such situations in Africa at the moment. That's 55, and we have 55 countries in Africa. That is humanitarian crisis or epidemic, one for each country in Africa. With such a situation, there can be no happiness. And yet, God has created Africa, Asia, in fact, the entire world to be embraced with peace, joy, and happiness. Can we get rid of humanitarian crisis? Can we get rid of epidemics and outbreak of diseases? Of course we can. We can. Half of the amount of money that is spent by the international community on fighting wars, unnecessary wars, can be spent to get rid of diseases and get rid of humanitarian crisis. This is my message to the world, and this is my message to you. We, starting with ourselves, we can be our source of dispensing peace and happiness in the world. May God help us to be able to do that. Amen.